of 422 and lose by 2 pins.
Boy, it's a tough way to go, but Rich Clark has his work cut out for him because he's got Don Richmond returning after a couple-year layoff from WNDS and Gary Santoris standing in the wings at the top of the ladder for next week.
It's number 5 seed meeting number 2 seed. Let's meet our bowlers this afternoon. First, the man who escaped last week with a 2-pin win over Jim Gregatis, bowling a 424, Rich Clark from Bedford, New Hampshire.
And if you've been watching, you know his stats by now. His average is 128, high single is 195, high triple 467. He's rolled consecutive 400 triples right here at Candlepin Stars and Strikes. We'll see if he can do it again this week.
He'll be taking on the 2nd seed, Don Richmond from Holbrook, Massachusetts.
Haven't seen him for a couple of years, but you knew he'd be back sooner or later. Don Richmond coming in with a 122 season average last year. High single of 201, one of the very few bowlers with a 500 triple at 510, and he bowls out of the Hanson Bowlodrome in Hanson, Massachusetts.
No stranger to TV appearances either is Don Richmond. So we've got a great match set up for you with Rich Clark and Don Richmond ready to go from Leda Lanes in Nashua, New Hampshire. Don't go away. Candlepin Stars and Strikes is getting set to start. We'll be right back right after these words. Ready to go with this match between Rich Clark and Don Richmond, the 3rd match in our opening series of the brand new season on Candlepin Stars and Strikes on WNDS TV. Dick Lutsk with Mike Morin. Happy to have you with us as Rich Clark starts us off. A 424 last week, a 428 the week before. He has been one red-hot bowler. And he starts off with a spare. Would you say he's in a groove, Michael?
He is in a groove with back-to-back 400s, which you just don't see that often. He is averaging over 140 for the last 6 strings. And it's hard to say, but he almost lost last week with a 424.
He also brought some goodies from Clark's farm in Bedford for the TV50 crew, some fresh vegetables from the garden.
So we're always happy when Rich Clark makes an appearance in the autumn because he always brings goodies.
Looking forward to trying some of the super
corn, yes,
that he was telling us about. 10 bucks and 27 through the first couple. Clark's farm, long an institution in Bedford, and Rich is the manager of the farm, a family farm that's been there for a long, long time. Now we see Don Richmond for the first time this year. No stranger to the bright lights of television.
Several dozen appearances on the old Channel 5 show. He couldn't count them. I asked him the other night. He said, well, at least 60, probably more.
And he missed the spare opportunity. As the 5-pin, the king pin, is still there. $10 for Richmond to start out. 47 years old, and lists as one of his hobbies working out to stay competitive with the younger guys.
It works.
Watch it again as Don Richmond buries the strike. And Rich Clark tries to respond. It's one of Rich's attributes over the past couple of weeks has been his ability to respond to the pressure put on by his opponents. And a spare for Clark, his 2nd mark in 3 boxes. 3 marks in a row earns the bowler $50 in bonus money. Each successive mark puts another $20 in the bank. Just a 4 in the spare. 3 strikes in a row. That triple strike jackpot is now $550. And the bonus ball contest after the match is worth $30 if we're able to match a postcard sent in by a viewer to the number of pins knocked down by our winning bowler. And $8 for Rich Clark. Speaking of which, if you'd like to participate in the bonus ball contest, send a postcard with your name and address and the number of pins you think the bowler will knock down, obviously from 1 to 10. Or 0, I suppose, is an applicable number. Send it off to Leda Lanes, 340 Amherst Street, Nashua, New Hampshire. Leda is L-E-D-A, by the way. And it's 340 Amherst Street, Nashua, New Hampshire, 03063. 7 in the strike for Don Richmond. And a 9 box. So the early lead in the match belongs to Rich Clark. We'll tell you more about your opportunity to participate in the bowl-off here at Leda Lanes. They're ongoing throughout the course of the year. And for more information, you should call Ray Simino or Sean Howard. Ray is the proprietor, Sean is the manager at Leda Lanes in Nashua. And the phone number here is 603-889-4884. 603-889-4884. You might want to call right now and find out when the next roll-off will take place. And you could win a spot on one of our upcoming series on WNDS TV's Candlepin Stars and Strikes.
Speaking of Leda Lanes, home of the annual Easter tournament held every spring. And
what day is it held on?
I'll get back to you on that. The Easter Sunday tournament is held at Leda Lanes, and the man you're watching right now, Rich Clark, finished 4th last year. The top prize is $5,000, so you get a real good collection of the best bowlers in the world here every Easter at Leda Lanes for that tournament.
Nine box for Rich Clark. Rich Clark and Don Richmond met in the 1996 Tournament of Champions, a match won by Richmond. Subsequently was defeated by Tim Lipke later on in that Tournament of Champions. Nice shot by Rich Clark for his 3rd mark of the string.
Speaking of Tim Lipke, a long time associated with the Londonderry Bowling Center. Londonderry Bowling Center is no more, at least not as a bowling facility. A number of the lanes, Dick, the machines were taken out and sold to a 10-pin proprietor somewhere in New York State, and now Candlepin will be a viable sport, we hope, in the state of New York.
I recall the story you told last year of the Candlepin lanes in California.
Out near San Francisco, a proprietor opened about a dozen or so Candlepin lanes along with his 10-pin lane side by side, as a number of houses here, like the Burlington lanes and places like that, have done. Of course, that was the only Candlepin bowling out in California, and hasn't really exactly caught on. Takes a while.
They're slow out there.
And they say they're ahead of their times? I don't think so.
Don Richmond has 2 spares in a row, and he'll have an opportunity at some bonus money when he next steps to the line. The last couple of weeks we've been sharing with you some names of some people who have been corresponding with us during the course of the off-season, if you will, although Candlepin Stars and Strikes has been shown in rerun on WNDS. Our new series began only 3 weeks ago, and during the course of the summer months, we received many cards and letters from you telling us where you are watching our broadcasts and letting us know how much you like seeing the bowling back on WNDS TV. And we really appreciate hearing from you. As Clark, with the 9 in the spare and the 2nd mark in a row, he shoots for bonus money now. Got a nice note from Mrs. Kenneth Gove of Exeter, New Hampshire, who always watches our broadcasts. And again, Clark having difficulty filling his spares. That's the only time he's having trouble hitting the headpin, is off a mark.
Much better follow through on that shot. Still leaving the 4 and the 6. And a 9 box.
$99 through 8 for Clark. That one slipped away.
So he'll actually lose ground because he's bowling opposite a spare 9 from Rich Clark. He'll lose 6 pins, even though he had a spare in that frame. Now the 310 with some wood rolling off into the channel.
Another note from Jake and Eileen Stankiewicz of Arlington, Massachusetts, who check in to let us know that they're watching week after week on WNDS TV. 3 marks in a row for Don Richmond. That's a $50 check in his pocket with some bonus money. First bonus money of the match. Add $20 to it, and the streak continues. 4 marks in a row. Now for Don Richmond, $70 in bonus money. And there's Rich Clark answering, as he has done so well in the past. Clark for the spare. In the 9th box, the mark for Rich Clark. Five marks in the first string for Clark. Right on the head pin again. 9 pins go down. He's at 127 right now. $128 plus the ball for Rich Clark.
So he's really not letting up at all after his last couple of weeks. So he'll be under his average of over 140, somewhere in the 130s right here.
They're still falling. It'll be a 6-pin fill and a 134 first string for Rich Clark. Don Richmond has 106 plus a ball through 8. Right on the head pin. And actually plus 2 balls. He was on a strike, and he's looking for more bonus money. Would you say he's set up pretty well for it?
Close your eyes and throw the ball, Don. You got
Another
that one.
$20 in bonus money for Don Richmond. 5 marks in a row. $90 in cash. And a pretty fair first string working. We did have an open frame in there.
Right.
That I didn't.
I had it initially
down.
scored as a spare and was corrected and had it fixed. So
here I go copying off of you and making the mistake again.
Have to take the money away from Don Richmond. But now he's got some bonus money. Take another look at this beauty. Three pins to win this match.
And that'll be a 7-pin drop and a 139 for Don Richmond. We get the correct scoring there. 139 to 134 for Rich Clark. We'll sort out the bonus money when we come back from the break. A 5-pin advantage for Don Richmond heading into the second string of this match between Richmond and Rich Clark on Candlepin Stars and Strikes on WNDS TV. The second seed, Clark the 5th seed. And it is Richmond with a 5-pin lead going into the second string. A 139 in the first string for Richmond to Rich Clark's 134. And we apologize for the error in scoring that had given a spare to Don when in fact he had a 10 box, and he ends up with $50 in bonus money in the first string, and that's a tough miss right there. The wood was just too far out ahead of that pin.
First we take bonus money away from him, then we take what should have been an easy 1-pin spare away.
And a 9 box to start out for Don Richmond. Don's an engineering technician for Kitty Fennell in Ashland, Massachusetts. He's married, his wife Debbie, and he have a 10-year-old son DJ, Don Jr.
I think I saw him in the crowd today wearing a Patriots jersey.
Front runner, huh?
Yeah, threw that New Orleans Saints jersey away last week. Don't blame him.
And that'll be a $9 for Don Richards and an 18 through 2. Now Rich Clark steps to the line. He failed to win any bonus money in the first string. Did have 6 marks in the string, but not able to put 3 together. And 4 pins still standing with a lot of wood on the deck.
He's got to plow through the 2, cap them both, and hope that they split in the right direction. The 5, 7, 8, and 10.
Well, he capped him, and look what he got. Now, I mentioned that Rich brought some goodies from the farm for us. I saw the guys in the truck divvying it up before the match began. I'm not sure that you and I will ever see any of it.
I think there's 1 bell pepper left for you and a half-eaten cantaloupe for me after about 40 pounds of produce. That's right. We'll just eat that much more at the Kahala after the match today.
Which reminds me, almost picking up the spare. I want to tell you about the Kahala Chinese restaurant right next to Leda Lanes in Nashua, New Hampshire, with a great luncheon buffet at $10 for Rich Clark, 19 through 2. The Kahala is right next door to Leda Lanes. And we go over there every time we come down for one of our broadcasts, and the entire crew goes over and enjoys the luncheon buffet. And it really is outstanding. And it's an all-you-can-eat buffet. It really satisfies even the heartiest of appetites. And they have a terrific buffet every day for lunch and for dinner. It's at 350 Amherst Street. The phone number for takeout orders is 889-5200. That's 603-889-5200. They offer delivery service. They have a banquet facility. They offer entertainment on weekends. All you can ask for and more from the Kahala Chinese Restaurant and Lounge. When you come to Leda Lanes, do as we do. Go to the Kahala Chinese Restaurant right next door. You saw Don Richmond pick up the spare in the 3rd frame. Put a 6 in it. Chop through there. I'm going to be cautious now in my scoring and look over to your scoreboard and check Chris Bolvier's scoreboard on the floor before I mark anything down on my sheet.
Check all sources, Dick.
Yeah. Don Richmond will take an $8.
This being the 18th of October, if you'd like to watch the WCBC, the World Candlepin Bowlers Congress, they have one last shift this afternoon, 2:45, if you're in the Manchester area at Lakeside Lane. Some of the best bowlers in the world for some pretty hefty prize money. Once a month they get together for a 2-day tournament. They're in Manchester today, the 18th of October.
What kind of prize money do they play for?
It's generally, at least last year, I think it was about $700 first prize. Although I understand the money's been bumped up this year. I haven't actually seen the breakdown, but it's going to be a little bit more.
Yeah.
Considering the relative size of the Candlepin Bowling Pro Bowling Tournament, which is not that large a number of people, that's pretty good prize money. Oh.
Caught you again.
You got me thinking about crab rangoons as you did the Kahala plug. I forgot to mark down Don Richmond's $8 in the 4th.
Leaves the 5-pin standing. So he will be markless through 4, which is an oddity. A $10 and a 39 through 4. 3-pin lead in the game for Don Richmond over Rich Clark as we take the break. Don't go away. A lot more bowling action coming your way from Candlepin Stars and Strikes and Leda Lanes in Nashua on WNDS TV. Don Richmond has an 8-pin lead in the match as we head to the 5th frame of the 2nd string.
Prize money today, $250 to the runner-up. And next week, Gary Santora atop the ladder for that $1,000 first prize.
A mark for Don Richmond. Watch it again as he picks up the spare. No doubt about it, had it placed perfectly. Eileen Bolduc from Orange, Massachusetts writes that she bowls every week at the French King Entertainment Center on a senior league and watches Candlepin Stars and Strikes every week and enjoys seeing us up in Orange, Massachusetts.
We've covered all parts of the state in the last few weeks.
That's one of the reasons that I'm reading all of these is to show and demonstrate to our audience just how widespread they are. They're everywhere. WNDS is now available in 1.6 million homes in New Hampshire and Massachusetts on various cable systems and over the air. And a lot of people have access now to watching our show week after week. Another mark for Don Richmond.
Slowly pulling away from Rich Clark, who is markless in this middle string and was 5 pins behind going into the start of this game.
And Rich Clark answers, as he has so many times in the past, with a strike of his own. Watch it again. A little delayed reaction on the last 2 pins to go down. There they are, still standing, and there they go together. Now Clark again on the head pin.
$550? Is that the 3-strike?
$550 is the
strike
total in the triple strike jackpot. Oh, leaves the 10 pin. And a 10 box. Now Don Richmond looking for bonus money. He has $50 in the match so far. Got a nice note from Marcel Couturier. Talk about how widespread our audience is. He's from Nashua, New Hampshire.
Probably in the audience today.
Could very well be.
In fact, I just saw him slip you that note a couple minutes ago, saving 32 cents on the stamp.
He writes, thank you for bringing back your bowling show. Well, you're welcome. We're happy to have it back on the air for you. $50 in bonus money for Don Richmond with that mark right there. He now has 100 in the match.
Right through the middle. Spread eagle minus the 7 pin.
As we saw last week when Rich Clark won by 2 pins in his match with Jim Grigatis, pinning is so important, can be so vital when it comes down to the end of the match. Rich Clark, 4 horsemen left side. Played it to the outside.
Last year's all event singles champion here in New Hampshire and runner-up in all events to Joe Ashline. And defeated by Don Richmond 2 years ago in the Tournament of Champions. So he'd like to make things right, as it were.
Yeah, he got a break that time, breaking up the split, and has pretty decent wood to help him out here. A very important box for Rich Clark right here. He's up against an open frame from Don Richmond and a chance to narrow the gap. And he does just that. Well, looks like we're headed down for another 3rd string, which could be could go either way at this stage of the game. Still a long way to go. Richmond leaves a split, has some wood out there, and the wood is moving back and looks like it can help him.
There you go.
Yeah, now it's coming back this way. He played it perfectly. That is the 5th mark in the string for Don Richmond. He had 6 marks in the first string, including 2 strikes. A little thin that time, but got great action. And another spare opportunity.
5 pieces of wood.
My goodness, Michael, I think I can make this one. Well, I don't know. There's a piece of wood that's buried in the middle there that could cause a problem. Oh.
Strong finish for Don Richmond, who had 139 his first game.
He's at 130 plus a ball. Pretty consistent. $138 to go with a 139. Now Rich Clark.
He needs a pair of marks and a strike in there somewhere just to tie.
Well, he'd like to be within earshot going into the 3rd string. That's the important part. Not so much to get it all back in these next 2 frames, but who knows, he might even do it. 9 pins still standing. Rich Clark has a way of making things interesting, doesn't he?
He never stops. He's always scrapping.
And on the head pin again.
Fell the wrong way.
This is a $50 shot. $50 in bonus money for Rich Clark. 126 plus a ball. It'll be less than 10 pins. Should be less than 10 pins. Could be less than 10 pins.
As long as he gets at least 5 on this fill.
A 6-pin drop and a 132 string for Rich Clark. And it'll be an 11-pin lead for Don Richmond going to the 3rd string as Candlepin Stars and Strikes continues from Leda Lanes in Nashua on WNDS TV. Rich Clark will be first to bowl in the 3rd string. He trails Don Richmond by 11 pins heading into the final game of the match. And the lefty from Bedford will start out on lane 34. And he starts out in pretty fair fashion. By the way, if you'd like to write us a note, we'd love to hear from you. Again, we'd like to know where you're watching throughout our vast coverage area. The address is WNDS TV, 50 Television Place, Derry, New Hampshire. And the zip code in Derry is 03038. And we would love to hear from you. Now Rich Clark fills the spare. He puts a 6 in there. And I also want to pay tribute to our WNDS TV crew working here at Leda Lanes today, making the broadcast possible. Our director is Larry Taylor, our chief engineer Paul Hunter. Are they still talking to each other, by the way? Steve Dross is working on audio. Peter Hovanations on the replay machine. And the camera crew, Gary Van Nortwick, Steve Giordani, and the always nattily attired Bob Dold.
He is a fashion plate for Candlepin bowling. There's no question about it. want to tell folks about another bowling tour, the Seniors Professional Candlepin Bowling Association, comprised of men over 50 and women over 45. They have tournaments similar to the WCBC. They're bowling next weekend, October 24th and 25th, at Canal Lanes in Southampton, Mass. If you're a male bowler over 50 with an average of 105 or better, or a female at least 45 years of age and a 90 or better average, you can bowl with the SPCBA.
Well, Don Richmond just missed a spare that everybody thought he would not miss, but the wood created a problem, an optical illusion, if you will. It looked like it was not missable, and he missed it.
So, Dick, I'm happy to report that I believe you just turned 50 earlier this year, didn't you?
I did. Why are you happy about that?
Well, because you're now eligible to bowl on the Senior Pro Tour. You could average 105.
I also have my AARP card.
If you'd like to join the Seniors Professional Candlepin Bowling Association out of Edgartown, although they travel all over the state, 508-627-4883. Again, that's 508-627-4883.
That time the wood did not let Don Richmond down, and he made the spare, so could have been 2 marks in a row, but he has to settle for 1. And now Rich Clark. 6-pin differential in the match. Rich Clark with a strike. Rich Clark, the 5 seed. Watch it again. He's trying to climb the ladder all the way to the top. So far, he's dispatched number 4 and 3. Now he's taking on number 2, Don Richmond. And the match is virtually even.
Well, he certainly would like to make it back to the Tournament of Champions. That goes without saying. He was the number 7 seed last spring and lost to Hawk Ellis 381 to 356. Where were the 400 triples then, huh? Could have used it back then, but he'll need another one today probably, Dick. It could be a 400 losing day again.
As was the case last week. And that'll be a 10 box that he'll be happy to take. Now Don Richmond working on a spare. Both bowlers have earned bonus money in this match. Richmond has $100. Rich Clark has $50. And he missed it. Tough miss for Richmond. That's 2 out of 3 in this string that were makeable spares that he did not convert. And they may come back to haunt him. Right on the nose.
Well, he doesn't miss the head pin very often, that's for sure. And that is the curse of accuracy. We've said it before. It's the wide open split, hitting the head pin too flush.
And trying to be a little too fine on the left side. This will allow Rich Clark to narrow the gap a little bit more in 8 box. And we'll go to the break. With Rich Clark taking back 5 of the pins he was down. A 6-pin lead for Don Richmond with 6 boxes to go. Don't go away. We're heading for a great finish of this match on Candlepin Stars and Strikes on WNBS TV. Rich Clark steps to the line, trailing by 6 pins with 6 boxes to go in the 3rd string. A nip and tuck affair. And Clark leaves himself a tough one. But he's made tough shots here this afternoon, as he has the last couple of weeks, to earn the spot in today's match, starting from the number 5 seed and working his way up, winning 2 matches to be here. The body English didn't get the job done. And a 9 box. Our next taping on Candlepin Stars and Strikes will be November 17th. As you watch this show for the first time on the 18th of October. And we'd like to remind you that there's plenty of room here. Ray Simino's done a spectacular job in adding seating capacity here. There's bleacher seating now behind us, several rows that elevate and give you a great view of the action and can accommodate a lot of people. We had a great crowd here today for our taping for the opening session. And this is the third show of the day, and it's been a great experience here at Leda Lanes, as it always is when we come to tape before the crowd that is so enthusiastic and so into Candlepin bowling. The mark for Rich Clark in the 6th frame as he tries to put a little pressure on Don Richmond. Let's see how Richmond responds. That's a rare miss of the head pin, but he came out of it pretty good shape.
Very makeable spare. 1, 5, 6, and 10.
With some wood. You're going to see pins go flying everywhere if he can get to the head pin. And that's the key right here. And he missed the head pin.
But he doesn't.
Watch out, watch out, watch out. Nope.
He doesn't lose any ground, as Rich Clark had a 9 opposite of him in the 5th frame. In fact, he might even pick a pin up here, but nope.
He will not.
So a missed opportunity, and now Don Richmond faces a Rich Clark 6th frame spare. Four horsemen right side, 1, 3, 6, and 10.
Right there. Ooh, he left the 10 pin.
I was amazed how that happens. You do want to put the ball between the 1 and the 3, which then takes out the 6, which then takes out the 10. Not.
If the 3 takes out the 6, it's almost impossible for it not to take out the 10, but in that case it did not. So now we have the door open for Rich Clark, working on a spare. Box to box, Rich Clark leads the match by 1 pin. And he did not make the spare.
Well, last week's match with Jim Grigatis came down to the last frame, and it appears as though that'll be the case today, but the scoring will be a little bit lower than last week's slugfest of 424 to 422, I think it was.
Now both bowlers are going to have to pick up the pace if they're going to get the 400 this time around. And just as I say that,
there's a start.
Rich Clark buries a strike. He went a little on the Brooklyn side and managed to wipe him out. Now Don Richmond with a tough leave here.
245 is tough enough, let alone the 10 pin standing in the corner.
And the 10 pin is still standing in the corner. He'll take a 10 box. And again, the match is even box to box, but now we have Rich Clark working on a strike in this next frame. A mark to stay even. Tough leave here. Got a shot at it. No.
Suddenly Don Richmond is missing the head pin.
Just 1 mark in the 3rd string for Richmond thus far. And he'll take a 9 box.
Yeah, Rich Clark could really put this match away right now with a couple of marks.
Well, he leads by a pin plus 2 balls. Southpaw is right on the nose again, and another spare opportunity. Although the wood is angled as funny right now. See how he plays it.
Wow.
We may get it yet. Nope.
There's that double wood that I think you talked about last week, Dick.
Catella had a funny angle on it.
Yep.
That'll be a 10 box.
And Don Richmond clings to life with that 10 box for Rich Clark.
Well, if Rich doesn't mark in this frame, he certainly leaves the door open for Don Richmond. It was past the head pin, but good, great action. And the wood is depends on where that wood sets, and it's of no help to him right now.
To be honest with you, I think he'd probably rather would have had the 3-pin stay up there at this point to help take out the back pin. Now it's a much more difficult shot.
Great shot by Rich Clark for a spare in the 10th frame. Don Richmond's going to need 2 marks. Great finish for Clark. And a 389. Check it, 398. 398 for Rich Clark. Don Richmond needed 39 pins, 38 pins to tie. Well, he threw it right on the nose, but doesn't have much to show for it. And 8.
So the best he can do is 121. Just give him 389.
Take a spare in the last frame, and Rich Clark will survive. We'll come back to talk to the bowlers. After the match here at Leda Lanes in Nashua, New Hampshire, Rich Clark moves on for the championship match against Gary Santora next week. We're back at Leda Lanes in Nashua in just a moment on WNDS TV. Another great performance by Rich Clark as he comes from behind to defeat Don Richmond by 14 pins.
398 though. Would this qualify as a slump for Rich Clark? He's under 400.
428 the first week, 424 last week, and 398 today. So he's heading in a downward trend.
He's going to need all that next week because Gary Santora will be here, and he had a great run back last year.
Well, let's meet the runner-up here this afternoon, Don Richmond. Tough luck loser this afternoon. Don, congratulations to you. $250 for you and $100 in bonus money. And he seems like he might be a man of destiny in this step-ladder series.
I think so. He looks pretty tough to me. But that last game there, I felt myself pushing a little more because, he threw enough marks up there, and he was kept in it, and I was pushing him. He pushed me, and then he pushed me out.
You seem to be on the head pin for the first 2 strings, and then you kind of lost it for a little while.
Well, that's part of the pushing part there, and I got pushed out, and I guess I started forcing the ball a little bit. You grip the ball a little tighter and
try to squeeze it for all you can. Congratulations to you. Thank you, Don Richmond. We'll see Don again hopefully down the road. Don Richmond from Holbrook, Massachusetts. Now Rich Clark will step to the line, and he'll roll the ball, and we'll try to match him up with a winner in the bonus ball contest. A strike for Rich Clark. Let's see if we've got anybody in there who's a real optimist.
Gonna have to dig real
Mike
deep.
Morin will reach into the barrel, which is full of cards, and see if we can pull out a winner. It says 8 on it. It's Mary Winsky from Worcester, Massachusetts. Mary picked 8 Sorry, Mary, you're not a winner, but we have a nice consolation prize for you. And we have 10 strings of bowling at Leda Lanes for Francis Bradbury of Newburyport, Massachusetts. And let's bring Rich Clark in a little bit closer to us. Congratulations to you. You seem to be on a little bit of a roll.
Yeah, but, you know, that string took the last one. I had to really stay consistent. It was nice to, and fortunately for me, you know, Donnie started missing the headpin a little bit, but he had some bad breaks, too. He had some shots that I thought should have gone that didn't go. And I knew I couldn't afford to miss my singles in that, and fortunately I came out with a win.
One of the things Michael and I were talking about during the course of the broadcast was when one of your opponents was marking, you'd respond with a mark, so that has to be a pretty good feeling to know that you can come back like that.
Yeah, I'd never, you know, unless I'm looking at a huge deficit, I don't generally like to knock on wood. You know, a little few pins behind is not going to bother me, but, you know, you do want to come respond. It is important not to get too far behind, and yeah, my confidence in this building is feeling pretty good right now. So.
We got about 30 seconds, so I'm going to put you on the spot. Tell me what super corn is at Clark Farm.
Well, it's just a name we gave our corn. It's just a really unique corn. Our customers asked for it, buy that name. There's so many varieties out there, and we just put super corn on it, and they wait for it, and they love it.
All right, Rich, thanks. We'll look forward to seeing you next week. Rich Clark, our winner, he advances to the championship match to the top of the ladder next week.
$1,000 to the winner, Gary Santora, who, like Rich Clark, had a couple of 400 triples before losing to Hawk Hallis back last January and February. So is there enough gas in the tank for next week from Rich Clark? We'll find out.
We'll look forward to seeing you two as well. For Mike Morin and our entire WNDS TV crew from Leda Lanes in Nashua, New Hampshire, I'm Dick Lutz. Thanks for watching Candlepin Stars and Strikes on WNDS TV. We'll see you next time.